Welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the structural framing industry. Regardless of how you touch this industry, we're glad you're here. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, I'm Sean Shields, Director of Marketing for SBCA. I'll be your host for this episode of Component Connection. I'm joined by Amanda Neuts, Associate Director of SBCA, and Abby Langenberg, Director of Business Development for SBCA. We just spent the entire week at NAHB's International Builders Show in Orlando, Florida. So we're going to share a few of our observations from the show and the value of having a presence here with the nation's home builders. Amanda and Abby, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so both of you, this is your first IBS show. What are your first impressions?
Impressive. I mean, this show is massive. The booths are impressive. People really come out to show their best. They are here to market what they have to offer. And I could say it's a little overwhelming, but in a wonderful way.
I think that pretty much covers a lot of it. I think I was surprised to see so many of our exhibitors from our show here and just seeing the crossover and the heavy crossover that we have from our industry and to interface with the nation's home builders and not just in our pocket of component manufacturers.
Right. I mean, you really get the full cross-section of the home building industry. I mean, you have everything from faucets to structural framing to trucks to data. And so it really runs the full gamut. I think one of the things we talked about is it's clear that this show is very different from the BCMC show. I mean, the BCMC show is very much a purchasing show. It's people show up, they want to see what the latest thing is, but they're really there to evaluate some of the needs that they have to buy. The show is very different. It's very marketing focused, right? Everybody's being as flashy as they possibly can.
Yes. A lot of bright lights and a lot of music going on.
There's a lot of happy hours in the booth.
Yes.
There's so many fresh cookies on their floor.
So many cookies.
Okay, well, they also have a lot of education, and that's really why we are here as SBCA for representing the industry. I mean, just some of the observations that you had about all of the education that we offer that was focused on trusses and components and sort of this offsite manufacturing movement. What were your thoughts there?
I think I was surprised by how many education sessions there were that were focused around offsite construction of trusses and panelization of trusses, whereas I think I was expecting maybe 3 education sessions, whereas there were more like 7 or 8 education sessions that we were able to attend, which, was really impressive to kind of see that difference from what you've described in the past of how the focus has shifted to this offsite, especially with labor constraints. As we get more into that, I think it's more and more attractive to home builders, and the education sessions this year, I think, really showed that.
I also really loved how many sessions had hands-on demonstration. I thought that was really fun to see and to watch, very engaging. I was really impressed, especially in the construction performance zone, that there was rarely an empty seat at any session that we saw. So it was really impressive, well-attended, very engaging. It was great to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the construction performance zone. I mean, that's really a space where, traditionally NAHB would go to Lowe's and they just buy a bunch of lumber and they build these stages from scratch. And we've, from attending this year over year, got sort of tied into the NAHB staff structure and got tied into the people who run that construction performance zone. Again, it's an education space that's on their show floor. So it's amongst all the people milling around. And we were able to come in and scratch their back by providing them some structural framing. This year, USLBM stepped forward and provided that because they have an operation here locally in Orlando. But that gave us a foot in the door to do a lot of that truss education to, again, a very large audience. It's, I think, one of the most well-attended single education venues that NAHB offers. Mm-hmm. It's because it's there on the show floor, right?
Yeah. I think especially with Sean Overholtz's education session, there were a lot of questions about the trusses that he was standing on and the trusses that were behind him from the audience of people that were wondering, why do you have this or that on that truss, or why does this one look this way? So I think that provided a unique opportunity for those education sessions to give a visual aid that's not just a video running, right? Like they can see it in person. They're sitting in front of it, watching him walk on these floor trusses for the entire presentation.
Right. And I mean, Sean's presentation focused on floor panels, not a widely used product yet in the home building industry. But again, that's part of the point of a show like this, is showing what's possible, right? There are component manufacturers who are having success, including Builders First Source, doing these floor panels out in the marketplace. And for Sean to get up there and sort of talk about what are the advantages of that, particularly from a time-saving standpoint, and just opening up some builders' minds to like, oh, what else could my component manufacturer do? Not necessarily it's going to be floor panels, but at least it prompts that discussion for the builder to go back to the component manufacturers they're already buying roof trusses from. What else can you do for me? And hopefully that's one of the roles that SBCA can play, is just opening minds to like, hey, talk to your component manufacturer. So there's the education, there's the show floor. We also spent a lot of time having conversations. I know, unfortunately, a lot of you had to listen to me just talk at people, but I'm curious sort of what your perspectives were and the wide range of people that we talked with this week.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I think what I took away from it is just all the possibilities for the future and partnerships and what can we do together? What can we build together? So I think there was a diverse amount of conversations that I got to listen to, and it was great. And it just made me extremely excited about where we're going and the types of folks that we can work with and the people that are really hungry to work with us and find great opportunities where we can give back. So that's was one of my great takeaways, and it gets me kind of really excited about the future.
You know, I think to the variety of people that we talked to, right? It's like, well, we had John Gibbs, who's, politically appointed higher up within the U.S. Department of HUD. You know, he spent time just talking with us about what HUD's vision is, what they want to try to accomplish, their focus on real world application of things, and how well that dovetails with what our industry is all about. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities there. So you have government. We also met with people from Clemson University, so there were academics. We met with a lot of people who are trying to connect the dots between government, academia, and manufacturers and home builders. Because, yeah, as you said, it's really encouraging that, again, all of those people show up at the show, and they wouldn't necessarily come to our show. They wouldn't come to our meetings. So getting to sit down and talk to them in person is difficult to arrange otherwise, but everybody's here.
I think it also shows kind of the position that SBCA put ourselves in of being a resource for all of those different agencies. I think that has really shown brightly at this show, just for the diverse group of people that you have and how many people came to us for questions. Mm-hmm. So that was really encouraging.
Yeah, a resource and a connector. I felt that, people really, were tuned into the fact that we could help connect them to other people as well. We have a lot of great relationships, and we can connect these dots and drive projects forward.
Yeah. So you mentioned early on, Abby, being surprised by the number of our members who have booths here at the show. What were some of the conversations you had with some of our members on the show floor?
Yeah, I think a lot of our members like this show for the diversity of attendees that they get. They get people who have no idea what a truss is, and they get to do some of that education piece one-on-one. And then they have some of their customers that are coming through that may not attend BCMC, but they do attend IBS. So I think that was really interesting to have those conversations with them. And a lot of the feedback that we got was, we like IBS because it's diverse and, there's a lot of things going on, but we really love BCMC because we get those one-on-one connections. So that was really refreshing to hear and encouraging for us to hear also that we're doing something right, that is something that our exhibitors are wanting out of BCMC.
Yeah. I think that's a key point, right? That people are here, they really appreciate everything that this show has to offer, but at the same time, and I don't think they're just paying lip service to us, but they're observing that, the nature of the BCMC show and what we offer, the value proposition of our show, is very different and actually more valuable in many ways because of those clear connections that they can make with their customers.
Right. And I think, too, for a lot of our exhibitors, this show might be more of like a tertiary connection. So they're connecting with the builders that are then going to go to their component manufacturers that are then going to go back to the exhibitor that might be at this show. So I think that, they recognize that this is a different avenue to kind of get builders connected with component manufacturers and drive business from that angle. that BCMC is really the place where they get to connect with the component manufacturers themselves and not necessarily with the builder.
I think another thing that's interesting within the NAHB space that it really comes to light when you're here at the show is that Modular has done a lot of work and a lot of lobbying over the last decade to sort of cement themselves as fitting under that term offsite, right? And for us to sort of show up and say like, well, our industry, we're offsite too. We're very mainstream. Again, it's a weird sort of clarification to try to make with builders, right? Of like, hey, do you buy roof trusses? Sure. Do you do offsite? They don't think so. And so trying to address that misperception too of like, oh no, I can't do offsite. That's too complicated. It's too disruptive. It costs too much money. It's like, well, you're already doing it. So what opportunities do you have to go back to that same supplier and see what else they can do for you? I just think it's telling in the questions that we get in our education sessions, like how much misunderstanding there is of like what our industry can do. And I think it surprises a lot of them.
Absolutely.
Right? They're like, well, you're just the truss guys. Well, we are the truss guys, and trusses can do a lot that you don't even think you can do, but they can do a whole lot more. And I think one of the other points too is the amount of investment that has come into our industry just in the last decade has been just astronomical. So I think our industry is evolving both from a technology and a mechanization standpoint, but also just from an experience and know-how standpoint. Even if a builder worked with a component manufacturer 5, 6, 7 years ago on like panels or something like that, the experience they had back then would be a very different experience today. And that's also an interesting challenge for us to try to address some of those misperceptions. But they very much were clear that misperception exists and is pervasive in, the NAHB world of home builders. So, okay, one thing that you wish you would have done differently now that you've experienced the show, that like when you come back next year, you'll be more prepared for it, or you would like to try to do differently?
I'm going to map this show floor out. No more backtracking from booth to booth, okay? We are going streamlined, lean walking the whole way through. That is what I would change.
I love it. Yeah, we did trace kind of the same path over and over again.
I probably would just focus on diversifying my education experience a little bit. I mean, I was so happy to support our truss and component education this conference, but I think next time I would like to spread out a little bit, support ours, but also learn a little bit more what's happening in other areas and attend a little bit more education.
Yeah, I mean, they do offer a wide range of education.
Yeah.
And yeah, we have that tendency of focusing on our industry.
Which was great, which was wonderful.
Yes, there's so much more out there of like, what are the other perspectives these builders are hearing? What are the other issues that they're trying to tackle? I think that's one of the things that I would change for future years is I would like to get back into attending NAHB's business meetings before the show. Absolutely. Because that's really valuable intelligence for us to have. Like, what is the Home Builders Trade Association? What are they focusing on? What are their committees struggling with? What are they deciding to put their resources towards? I think those are all key insights that we can sort of bring back then to our members and also bring back to our association or our staff of like, okay, this is what this trade association is focusing on. How are the things that we're doing aligning or in discord with that?
Yep.
And is there something we need to do about that? Well, it has been a great 3 or 4 days. Share that with you. I think the one other thing I would change is that we would block off time for lunch. Meals were just really difficult to lunch in. I'm glad we were that busy, but it was still one of those things where I'm cold and I'm hungry.
At least we did eat. We squeezed it in.
Yeah. Hearing some education. Yeah.
Literally squeezed it in.
You were scarfing food down in the back of the room and trying to be nonchalant. All right, well, if you have enjoyed this episode and found it valuable, please share it with others. Stay up to date and in the know by subscribing to Component Connection on whatever platform you use most.
Thanks for listening to Component Connection, brought to you by SBCA. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore in a future episode, email us at podcast@sbcacomponents.com.